Good morning or good evening, where my guest Tim Watson is from. This is Dr. Matthew Dunn, host of The Future of Email Marketing. My guest today is Tim Watson, founder of Zetasphere and guy in charge of Traction 6, among other things, right? Welcome, Tim.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. Yes,
And we're talking to you're in somewhere in England today, right?
yeah, I'm right on the south coast, down in the middle. So nice part of England.
Nice part of, what time is it there? It's 7 a.m. here.
3 p.m.
Oh, okay. Not too bad for either one
Yeah,
of us.
yeah. It's
Tim and
coming
I
up to my
have
cup of tea time.
a cup of tea time and my third or fourth cup of coffee time. Tim and I have had a chance to speak before, but I've been looking forward to an opportunity to chat one on one and more in depth. Outline, if you don't mind, and some people might be listening to this. Outline a bit about your background in email, and then we'll segue over to your background helping entrepreneurs after that.
Oh yeah, sure. Wow. So my background in email. I guess my very first experience of email was I want to say it must have been about 1999. So my background is sort of a mix between technology and marketing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd got a small shareware a product, a solution created.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking to, get that out into the marketplace in 99.
Uh-huh.
How do I reach out? It was for a very specific market segment.
Yeah.
And thought, well, can certainly try email.
Right.
um, there weren't really kind of that many ESPs around. I mean, there were some, but
No.
it was like, oh well, find some software package that will do some bulk emailing from the Windows PC, down through the internet connection and out there. So, set it up, sent out some stuff, found, I don't want to say it too loud, but found some list data
Yeah.
for the appropriate market. And lo and behold, it launched the product, and
You did. Okay.
yeah. I mean, it was because it was relevant content. I knew exactly who to target. It was really relevant. And the user definition of spam is relevant versus not relevant. That actually people are very happy to receive an email from someone they have never heard of if it happens to help them solve the problem they've got today.
Yeah.
The,
Yeah.
the challenge is that it's almost impossible to find the right person who's got that challenge and target them when you know nothing about them,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is
That's the issue right there.
that's the issue. So it's not the fact that it's kind of not an opt-in address or not, it's the fact that it's almost impossible to get a relevant email to someone who you don't know, because you probably have like 3 data points on them and it's not enough. And even if you had 10 data points, it's probably not enough. But
Oh,
anyway, going off at a tangent there.
not at all.
So I kind of had an experience with email then, and it worked, and did some good sales on the shareware. Rolled forwards a bit, and got involved with ESP business and some other guys, on the board of directors. We grew a ESP back in the early 2000s.
Oh, wow.
And that grew really well, as yes, all ESPs do and did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And trade sale of that business. And I stuck with the acquiring company a little bit longer before I decided it was time to do my own thing again, and took all the knowledge I had at that point of technology, digital marketing, and email that I gleaned over the years, and through working with some very, very nice brands and helping them with their email campaigns
Mm-hmm.
as part of the work within the ESP, and set up shop as consultant on digital marketing of the niche of email,
Mm-hmm.
and worked with gosh, I don't know, 150 businesses since then on,
Wow.
on
Wow.
their email, right?
Wow.
So that's how I got involved. It was sort of out of kind of necessity. Found email worked, and then very coincidentally, the opportunity to get, to work in email again with some other guys that I knew,
Yeah.
known for many, many years actually,
Uh-huh.
with building a company all around email.
Yeah. And so you were, I mean, that's 99. That's pretty early on for email as a marketing channel.
Yeah,
So I think it's fair
yeah.
to say you kind of watched watch the baby grow up a good bit, right?
Looking back on it, it was
Yeah.
really crazy early on. I mean, what was I thinking?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. The story we were telling ourselves is sort of look around the room and why isn't everybody doing this? Because it makes so much sense, right? Gee, almost everyone's got an email address or they're getting one, 99. Oh, look, it doesn't cost a fortune and you don't have to pay someone else or ask them permission. You only have to ask the person who you're sending to, can I send this to you? So, yeah, rear view mirror, it's inevitable that it was going to grow. I'm sure at the time it felt like, oh man, what are we doing? The
Yeah, I mean,
internet's
I
a
can't
fad,
say,
right?
I can't say, it was not like there was lots of published, guides on how to do email marketing
Yeah,
in
yeah,
99.
yeah,
We were kind of like, it was work it out for yourself time,
yeah,
from all aspects, from kind of like the technology, the solution, what you say, how you say, how what's going to work, what's not going to work.
yeah.
But the main thing is, guess what? Right offer to the right person.
Right off to the right person. Yeah, and as you said, if even if you picked their name out of a hat or made it up at random, if you happen to be talking about something that they're interested in, helps them solve a problem right now at this moment in time, you're not spam.
No,
Yeah,
I mean, there's the legal definition, and there's a user definition. The user
yeah,
definition is if you turn up on my doorstep and you're helping me in some way
yeah,
that I need,
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't thank you enough for contacting me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it right there. Well, there's a pivot in your life at some point, and you're helping, coach entrepreneurs down the path with a particular
Yeah.
methodology. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, but I guess my background in terms of, building a business with the ESP, actually, there was another business I'd been part of a few years before that,
Uh huh.
kicked off and built it. I actually left that business when I realized the vision wasn't for me.
Yep.
And obviously, create my own marketing consultancy business, on top of that. So, but I'll be honest, one of the frustrations that I found was that particularly when people are looking for help,
Mm-hmm.
they need the help, and they can benefit from getting the knowledge and the experience of people external to them, right? There's stuff that they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I got frustrated because I would help people understand what they need to be doing to improve
Mm-hmm.
their results and their marketing and everything, and I spend time and effort and blood and sweat, right? Putting together kind of the roadmap and the strategies that were going to make them successful. But the frustration was that very often I could feel the dust collecting as I walked out the door.
Right. Is this
As,
actually going to turn into action, kind of a thing?
yeah, it's kind of like you've got this thinking of feeling of, what, there's something, they get it, they people go, great, that's fantastic, that's just what we needed.
Mm-hmm.
This makes total sense. Yes, we need to get on with this now. And you could just sort of see that there's 1,000 other priorities hitting them
Yeah.
that's going to stop them getting to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And it was a frustration because I was not delivering as much value as I could, not because
Right.
of what I was providing, but because of the people's business's ability to work out what they should be doing and prioritizing. And I found the answer in 2015.
Okay.
I wasn't particularly looking for it, but I was scratching my head and going, how do we help businesses better? How do we help these entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial businesses better?
Yeah.
And I came across working with one of a very good client, this book Traction
Hmm.
that you can see on the shelf there
Yeah.
by Gina Wickman, which describes what he terms the entrepreneurial operating system, which is a way of harmonizing human effort. And it turns out that, businesses I've worked with, and experienced. Actually, one of the big struggles is there isn't kind of a really good, solid, clear, shared vision
Hmm.
with a way of getting everybody on the same page, aligned on priorities as
Hmm.
to what needs to be done, this 90 days, this 12 months, this 3 years kind of thing.
Okay.
That the strategic planning processes were not that functional.
Yeah.
And businesses suffer from this kind of flipping back and forth, and today's priority, and 1,000 things are important. And when everything's important, nothing is important,
Nothing's important.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
you
For
know,
sure.
it's, and EOS helps the business just get better
Yeah.
at getting traction. Hence the name of the book. It's about getting clarity of vision, so everybody's on the same page with the vision for the business, where it's going, how it's going to get there,
Uh-huh.
creating that discipline of accountability to get the traction, so everybody's executing on it,
Right.
and also creating some healthy teams on the way as well as part of that. So in 2015, I came across the book working with a business.
Yeah.
We implemented the EOS concepts, the tools and disciplines into that business. I was really blown away by it. It worked. I thought it was going to work well, but it worked really well.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So you didn't. It wasn't just a book. It was it was theory in action turned into results.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very practical. There's lots of really great books around,
Sure.
which
Too many.
are yeah, and I read an awful lot of books, and there's things some of them you probably can't read all the spines, and there's a whole load more books in the cupboard, but and they're very inspiring, thought-provoking books, and they've got great content, but not many of them are sort of like a practical guide to
Right. Right.
how to actually help your business run better.
Yeah.
How to remove some of the common frustrations that entrepreneurial businesses suffer with, right?
Right.
Whereas Traction's a very practical guide. So yeah, we implemented it, worked great. That particular business grew 54%, 10 million over 3 years. That and it's carried on working for them ever since. I started using those same tools and disciplines then with other businesses I was involved with,
Yeah.
and found that it worked again.
It worked again. Okay.
And again and again, and it worked for them, and which couldn't have been too much of a shock to me, because there's, I think it's over 12,000 businesses actually running on EOS right now.
Oh wow. Okay.
It's in lots of different industry verticals as well, so that as a framework
Uh-huh.
for and a set of tools, sort of, it's a simple, practical, proven system at this point.
Yeah.
And there's a way of deploying it as well, of implementing it, which is proven. So I found that as much as people kind of said, look, we want help with this, actually what really moved the needle even more was helping with that, which was say, right, let's get the whole business running just right, and work with the leadership team to make sure everyone's aligned with that vision,
Mm-hmm.
and how you're going to get there, help you get better accountability throughout the business, get focus on what's important, and get the right stuff done, and stop some of the stuff that, particularly, I think marketing is particularly susceptible to getting distracted.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh, I need to do this, and nothing, nothing gets done because everything's a distraction to what should be being done. And at some point, people have forgotten what the priority was in the first place. And it's tough. So yeah, so it was kind of accidental, and I kind of went, I can add so much more value for people by actually, from all of my experiences and having understood how to use EOS and implement EOS to working with people on that.
And EOS is Entrepreneurial Operating System, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So most of your time now is spent, am I correct, consulting and coaching on implementation of EOS for businesses.
Yeah, basically, yeah. That's exactly it. That's where I spend most of my time now. I mean, I've got a kind of a couple of fingers in a little bit of activity around email, but most
Yeah,
of my time is exactly around that, implementing EOS, which is kind of a little bit of a blend of teaching, facilitating, and coaching.
yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. And you probably end up getting to work with a wide range of industries and businesses.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Are your clients mostly, UK, EU, or are you stretching out more globally as well?
Um, you know, the fantastic thing called the internet. When I made this switch, we sold the ESP, and I decided to go out and do my own thing again, and set up the consulting business within digital marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I had in mind that that would be a very UK centric business, that it would be, working with people who are localish, right?
Okay.
Um, um, but that's turned out not to be the case. It turned out that because of the internet, which was getting better and better,
Yeah.
right, in the a few years ago, that it became very practical to video commute,
Yes.
and work with businesses remotely. So I was working already at that point with businesses around the world, substantially the US and UK, but
Nice.
and other places as well.
Nice.
Um, and that's continued in that, the businesses I'm working with. I'll get on run a session with a client, and got one where it's people from US, UK, and like Asia, and it's a management team that's split over 3 continents, and we get together on Zoom, and that
Wow.
happens.
So did the pandemic and everyone going, oh, I guess we can work on video, did that actually kind of help?
Yeah, I mean, from my personal experience of when the pandemic hit, and it's all kind of like, oh, we got to do all this stuff over Zoom and
Yeah.
video and
Yeah.
working remotely. I was like, no change then.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Welcome to my world.
I had phone numbers that followed me around, and virtual phone numbers, and virtual everything, and
Yeah.
video. Used every single video hosting solution around, and video
Yes, me
tech
too.
on you know
Do you
from
remember what it used to be? Like, if you could coax someone on to a video conference, you pretty much guaranteed that you were going to spend 10, 15 minutes doing tech support, helping them install, get the meeting ID,
oh
and
god, yeah,
connect. It
yeah,
was such a pain in the butt. I would switch solutions looking for the one that was just like click
just works.
hello, and it worked.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now
I mean,
everybody's there.
from sort of go to meeting and WebEx and
Join me and all. Yeah, Skype
uh,
was kind of the dominant dog, and then it
yeah,
it, it
yeah.
Microsoft managed to really kill Skype. Like, what a dork move
Oh
that
yeah,
was.
yeah. It's been a big shame that has. That's
Yeah, it was
certainly.
a shame. It was a real shame. And timing is everything. And I'm not taking anything away from Zoom's technical achievements. It is easy, slick, polished, etc. But they were also at the right place in the right time.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, yeah, they had this. They had the right solution, and it just hit the right. It's very slick, very easy. It
yeah,
takes about 3 minutes to learn it, and
yeah.
it just works.
And it just works. Yeah,
And suddenly the whole world needed it. I mean,
and
wow.
yeah, and it's become the verb, right? Oh, I've
Yeah.
got a Zoom. Uh, I had switched to Zoom. Um, yeah, 9 months, maybe 12 months, before COVID showed up and made
Yeah, right.
life interesting, and watching it just go,
Yeah,
unbelievable. Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
I'll be very curious to watch them as a company though, after out of this, etc. Like, okay, you got a happens once a decade kind of boost. What are you going to do? Like, where do you take it from here? Because they could
yeah,
just park camp on it and be the sort of de facto standard, but sooner or later, Microsoft's already taken market share away from them with Teams.
yeah,
Yeah, and you've got all of the complications of privacy, security, etc. That always rear their heads when human beings are involved in something. And I'll have to grapple with that. It's like, can Zoom become bigger than a video conference platform? It'd be an interesting question to watch.
Well, they certainly tried. They're doing some stuff at the moment on there around kind of trying to be bigger than the video conference platform in terms of the features they're building in and the capabilities
Yeah,
around kind of trying to be your business virtual PBX type of thing,
yeah.
and they bought. I can't remember, they bought someone, didn't they, not too long ago?
Yeah, I can't remember which company.
Um,
It's hard to keep track of the mergers and
yeah,
acquisitions
but
playing board, game
yeah.
board. Wow,
But yeah, so certainly I'm still kind of telecommuting around and
yeah.
physically commuting as well a little bit. But yeah,
Were you already were you already working mostly virtual, before everyone had to work mostly virtual?
yeah, heavily,
Yeah,
yes,
me too.
yeah,
Me too. Me
heavily,
too. I
yeah,
was like, welcome to my world. Thank you.
yeah.
Thanks for joining me. This is much easier. I was chatting with do you know Tim Moore at Socket Labs?
Um, no, I do not.
Socket Labs is a smarter backend for email, and I'm sorry, Tim, I'm kind of mangling what you said yesterday. He was a guest for a podcast episode yesterday. We had great in-depth geeky email conversation, but we were just talking about how work and doing a job have been redefined so quickly and are not going back, right? You've
Mm,
worked remote virtual for a long time, me too, and now a whole lot of people are getting to do it, and it's an amazing transformation to watch.
yeah, I mean, I hooked up, with one of my clients for implementing EOS, and it's kind of like, right, okay, it's time for a review. How's it going? And it's like, the business is going great. We're just downsizing the office.
Yeah,
It's like, the business is going great. You've got double number of people, but you're downsizing the office because you just don't need the office size. It's like we're downsizing the office. The business is going great.
yeah, yeah. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Do you think? Well, so a couple questions occur to me. One, and I'm just guessing, and you get to talk about it. I'm guessing that this redefinition of work fits perfectly into the EOS methodology and framework.
Yeah. I think, I mean, it's certainly going to be some interesting stuff in terms of, seeing how people, um, join and grow and develop within a world which is heavily virtual or hybrid or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
One of the CEOs said, he hasn't met about 50% of his staff at this
Right.
point,
Right. Yeah.
because they're all at the end of a wire.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so yeah. What was the question again?
Well, no, just wondering how you've got
How
a
EOS? Oh yeah, how EOS fits with it.
yeah, and
Yeah,
vice versa, really.
yeah. So I think the one thing that EOS gives is, it gives kind of like handrails for how to be clear on the vision. It gives clarity to people around where the accountability is, what the focus should be, what needs to be done, so that actually that's really helpful, within the virtual world, because where
Yes.
you haven't got you know the management by osmosis, the walking around stuff and just
Hmm.
chatting and trying to stay coordinated informally,
Yeah.
having something which is a set of handrails
Yeah.
which helps guide and make sure that everything is aligned and in sync. And it's not kind of like an onerous framework or something. It doesn't get in the way, which
Not like
some
Six
people kind
Sigma,
of think.
right?
Yeah, no, you don't even notice it's there in a sense, but it just helps the right amount, it's simple, and that's the genius of it. It is so simple.
Wow.
Anything complicated
Doesn't stick
never
around.
works.
Yeah.
People come up with this fantastic, crazy, complicated way of working that will just be like genius. Don't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, or it won't last, or it won't
won't
adapt.
last. It's too complicated. People
Yeah.
can't understand it, engage with it. It does,
Yeah.
because it's complicated. It starts to become restrictive and
Yeah.
sticky, and now you're fighting the system rather than working with it. So, but yeah, I mean, the EOS is working great in a hybrid environment or remote environment. It's helping the alignment, helping people know what they need to focus on, keeping that accountability there. Rather than there was some stories, I don't know, they're probably in the US press as well, but there was some like stories on the BBC press here in the UK of some guy saying how he was using screen watching software to make sure his people are doing the right stuff and so on. And it's like, oh my God, that's just terrible. I can't imagine. I mean, it's like, what are you thinking? That is not going to be a successful way to engage.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Ever.
I read the other day that one of the one of the hot selling items these days, pandemic easing period, is a little gizmo that makes it look like your mouse is in action. Because you've got companies, misguided in my humble opinion,
100%.
monitoring every keystroke and mouse click, and you're like, I want to go get coffee, but I'm supposed to be at work, so I'll put my mouse on the little vibrating pad so it looks like I'm still doing something.
Oh wow, I hadn't seen that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, if you're measuring mouse clicks, we have a different problem to discuss.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's just the innovation of man. Fabulous, isn't it? Kind of like, but and it's just so wrong. I think it was Jim Collins who said, as soon as you as soon as you feel the need to tightly manage someone, you made a hiring mistake. If you really feel like you've got to manage someone that tightly, you've got the wrong person, or you're not, or you're not a manager,
or you're not a manager, or you're the wrong person. You're
the problem. It's either the person you hired is a problem, assuming
yeah,
well, you are. But I mean, that's just so bad. And I think that's why being focused on outcomes and what needs to be achieved. Getting clarity around that, and we have mechanisms to do it, where things are written down like, SMART, the good old specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound. Everything is defined. SMART. There's clarity. Whether it's going to take you 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 months to deliver something. The clarity's there. You don't have to monitor if the mouse is moving or not.
Right. Because honestly, sometimes shutting the screen off and, hands off the keyboard and thinking may be the most important thing for you to do.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, certainly, a lot of us are obviously heavily, knowledge workers, really. And thinking is, critical. I love this quote actually from Henry Ford, which he said was, thinking is the hardest type of work to do, which is why so few people do it. And it's just like, it is actually, sitting back and just thinking is really, it's really, quite hard, to try and sit back and get that clarity and think about what's going on, think about what needs to be happening. And certainly, as business leaders, you need to be getting that clarity on a regular basis, getting, just thinking about things. And your mouse isn't going to be moving.
Exactly. If your mouse is moving, your brain may not be. We're going to have to fight to reinvent the processes and systems that don't just allow for that, but actually enable that. And I put that poorly, but I'm thinking, for example, of software developer, kind of my space. It's pretty well studied that a 1 or 2 minute interruption can pretty much blow a day of work for a good developer. Because, they're in flow, they're in the middle of this, they've got all of the pieces and variables in their head, and someone comes in and asks them if they filled in their timesheet or some stupid ass thing like that. Poof, right? You're not, you may not ever reconstruct what you had going at the moment. And enabling them to do the job of, that's a thinking job, right? Enabling them to do that by doing things like giving them an office instead of a cubicle. Like, we're starting to realize, oh, that's the valuable output, right? Like that. I particularly like to rail on the open office concept, because I've always thought that was just completely idiotic and refused to work in a cube myself. But why? Because I can't think if I'm constantly interrupted. And
Yeah.
really, you probably should pay me for this work, not this work, not keyboard, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, people sort of say, oh, that'll only take me a couple of minutes. When I don't believe there's anything which is a 2-minute task,
Yeah. Yeah.
because if you switch context
Context switching. Yeah.
and you go and do something, and particularly if your head was deep in somewhere,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
going to take you a lot of energy to get your head back to where it was and deep into that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Which we're all mea culpa, guilty of context switching a lot more than I should. And I know the cognitive cost is atrocious.
Mm.
Task A, task B, task C, you're not doing any of them well if you're doing a piece of them all in the same 1 or 2 minute span.
Yeah, yeah. If
Yeah.
you're endlessly flipping back and forth, yeah.
Yeah, or you're placing more of a load on your compute machine or on your head than you should have. I've actually gotten to the point in, like, okay, I'm gonna say it. It's gonna be recorded. I have big old time blocks on my calendar in the morning that are basically piss off, leave me alone. I'm actually concentrating on something, and I just
Brilliant.
leave them blocked, because I've learned that that's kind of the sweet spot for me for the work that requires real concentration. And meetings, generally speaking, they can wait, right? They can go later in the day or later in the afternoon, and I'm just
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, no, it's
perfectly fine
important.
with
It's
it.
important. It's absolutely important that you block out time for yourself to
Yeah,
get, to do your thinking work, to get your clarity and so on.
yeah, yeah.
But I'm interested now. You got me interested. When's your most creative, inspirational moments? When do they come?
Um, I'm a long-term student of creativity, thought and creation, creative process. So I understand why it works this way. Driving,
Hmm.
which I don't do that much anymore,
No.
and like random, not actually working activities where the brain just goes, wait a minute, you
Hmm.
could put those two things together. Walk,
Yeah.
shower, playing
Yeah.
piano, something like that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
that I'm pleased you said that, because that's what I hoped you were going to say.
yeah,
um, and there is this kind of, like, you block of time to get deep into some thought task,
yeah,
but the where you've got to work things through, and you're thinking and you're deep, and so on. That's great. The inspirational creativity side of things probably doesn't come in those blocks of
doesn't come in those
time.
blocks. No, you're absolutely right.
They come in a time when you're a little bit unfocused, a little bit
Yes,
defocused, and
yes,
there's even a case of, if you're a really great morning person, where you get up, you've got huge amounts of energy, and you can really start plowing through things. You get in the flow and you get a
yeah,
whole load of stuff done.
yeah,
Probably means your creative stuff is in the evening,
yes,
when you're half zonked out, when you're kind of, your brain's only half there,
yep,
and
yep,
it can wander around, and vice versa. If you're kind of like a person who would do all of your study and revision in the evening,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
then probably first thing in the morning, when you're kind of like, well, is probably when you're going to have things. So yeah. But I'm, like yourself, when I'm I find, right, reading some book about something or other, and I'll be reading it, and there's just things that start to trigger off, and I'll start thinking about, and creating and solving challenges,
a
and
different
so
one.
on. It's getting new perspectives
Yes,
on things, not necessarily directly related to what I'm reading,
yes,
but because I'm not focused on it. and of course, the old classic of, you going to the bathroom and you come back having been to the bathroom, with the answers,
with the answer.
because that, you've been at it, bum, 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 bum. You've got everything in your head, it's all there, but the pieces aren't connecting, the neurons aren't quite firing. And then God, my camera's going all crazy.
Yeah, a little crazy.
And then you go off to the bathroom,
Yeah.
and take that little break where you're not directly thinking about it, and suddenly, bam, it becomes so clear.
So
Fascinating.
now we're going to get really esoteric. Have you ever read The Act of Creation by Arthur Kessler?
No, I've not.
Oh, dude, you put that. I'll send you a link. You may have a hard time finding it in print, but
No?
like if I were taking three books to the proverbial desert island, that would be one of them. Yeah, and Kessler, famous journalist, famous novelist, and surprisingly smart dude. Um, he would say, and what he says in The Act of Creation, which is all about that creative aha process across disciplines,
Hmm.
is that you need both of the things that you just talked about. You have to do the hard donkey work, the I'm concentrating, I'm
Yep.
focused to
Yep.
do. His term is load the underground.
Right.
You actually have to not be able to solve the problem. So your brain's kind of like, ugh, I worked at this and I've got all the pieces there, and the hell with this, I'm going to go take a walk, right? And on the walk, or in the car or something like that, then the human brain does this amazing cross circuit, like, wait a minute, what if we connected it that way? But
Yep.
trying to get brilliant by just driving around or just taking walks isn't going to get you there, because
Right.
you don't have the load of
Yeah.
potential
Right.
waiting for lightning to connect the cloud and the ground.
Got it. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. Yeah. You got to have all of the things sort of in your head, knocking around, all the pieces,
Yeah. Yeah.
all the bits of the puzzle on the desktop, on
Yes. Yes.
the mind space,
Yeah. Knowledge
and then let the brain relax, and it will just go and start. Oh, that one goes there, and this one goes here, this one
Yeah.
goes here, that one
Yeah.
goes there.
Yeah. Yeah. Or
Sort it
you'll
out.
or you'll see a structure or a connection between things for
Yeah.
completely arbitrary looking reasons. Like,
Mm.
oh yeah, that is like that. Huh, son of a gun, right? Boom, solution sort of presents itself. Yeah, it's and back to the virtual work, and even the operating system for business kind of things, allowing for both, or even structuring for both. We'll have to get better at that, I suspect, because, and I won't say this quite very well right out of the gate, I think a lot of that was happening inadvertently around the edges of social interaction, when work tended to be done live with other people. And now that we're not doing that, now that I don't have to go to the room for coffee where I bump into the guy who's talking
Right.
about something else,
Right.
we're going to have to start designing work for that. It's like eventually a company will go, "Did you take your walk today?" Why? Because we actually figure you're more likely to do something really smart if you put the
Yeah.
keyboard down and go for a walk. Studies have shown that. Da, 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 da.
Yeah. How can we still have those moments,
Yeah,
if we aren't sort of doing it by accidentally knocking into people, and
yeah,
accidentally,
yeah,
water cooler or whatever, um,
yeah,
where you overhear something, or you get, yeah,
yeah. There's a
definitely.
there's a company. Oh, and I'm blanking on the name of the company. I think they're mentioned in Good to Great. No, they're not. It's an engineering company down in Seattle, and I won't come up with the name of them. They designed a headquarters for the company, but they put a cap on the height of the building, and the cap was dictated by the number of flights of stairs that someone will take. And the point that they were after, which is absolutely right, is that elevators really screwed up collaboration, because you don't talk to people in elevators, and you don't stop and pause and have a conversation in an elevator, and you don't run into people from like other disciplines, other departments,
Okay.
other
Whereas
parts
on the
of.
on the on the stairwell, you're kind of like, hey,
Yeah, hey Tim,
what-
I hear you're doing the
you've got 30
COS stuff.
seconds.
Like, cool. What's that new company you're working? Blah, 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 right, right. And we learn, we glean, we grow, we connect, which you don't do in
Mm,
elevator-sized, elevator-structured buildings.
mm.
Cool, huh?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And Amazon Amazon's headquarters are 90 miles south of me. I'm in the northwest, north of Seattle. They just spent cackajillion dollars on this like garden space in the middle of their metroplex in at the south end of Seattle. And I mean it's a big building with plants and nooks and crannies, and like it doesn't have desks. It's not there for people to work. It's
Right.
there for people to take a break, hang out, interact,
Right.
and I would be willing to bet that thing pays for itself very, very, very well in short order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with it. I'm with you on that, and I'm sure they're doing the right things. Yeah. How does one measure it? So I'm a real kind of,
Measure.
I'm a data person. I love data. I love, not just reading numbers, but thinking about why the numbers are like the numbers are,
Yeah. Yeah.
and looking behind the numbers.
Yeah.
Not like, read the numbers. Oh, this is what it says. No, no, no. Let's think about what the mechanics. Let's see how those numbers are talking to us. How is it stacking up? And what are the interactions going on there? What might be the reasons for that?
Hmm.
The numbers are what, but there's the big why question, which is, far more fascinating. But so, my question on, Amazon doing that, or any company is like, great, but how do you get the numbers which shows what's going on and show you what value you're getting from that sort of stuff? Yeah, it's tough, huh?
That's it.
Tough.
It's a tough question because
Mm.
if you're making a speculative or investment leap, like let's use Amazon as a proxy here,
Yeah, it costs something, right?
we're gonna build a big dome with a bunch of plants and in places for people to hang out. Well, what are the
Yeah,
numbers that justify that? You will not have an answer.
no,
Right? You're going to make a big old leap of intuition, faith,
yeah,
guts,
it's kind of
whatever.
philosophical belief,
Yeah, yeah,
and I get it. It sort of goes against my
yes,
scientific
yes.
sense of, if we can't measure it, we can't verify it, we can't prove it. And if it's a few sodas, whatever, but when it's some millions,
Yes,
it's like,
yeah.
it's ballsy.
It's ballsy. Well, and measurement by definition, measurements post post factum, right? Well, we can put some numbers on this. Yes, now that it's made built doing its thing, but projecting the numbers in advance, you're applying an old model and hoping it works out
Yeah,
again. So no, it's not
yeah,
right. Mark Zuckerberg, not a fan. Facebook, not a fan. But the fact that they've got the balls, your word, to put at this point $12 billion already into metaverse, like I wow, like gutsy move. And he's got the control and the cash to be able to do it. I hope it
yeah,
doesn't pay off because I don't want people living in Facebook, but I do admire the commitment to make the leap.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like, wow, that's pretty major.
Yeah, it's pretty major. And history says someone somewhere in a garage is doing something that'll end up being more meaningful for that new vector, right?
Yeah, this is kind of like, yeah, there's a business kind of putting 10 billion into something, and then
Yeah,
someone will for a few $1,000s start on a concept which actually it turns out to be far more
far more
important.
important. Yeah, which yeah, I mean, it's kind of reassuring that happens so often. It would be a boring, awful world if the only way to innovate was to have $10 billion to throw
So,
away.
so here's something I was just toying with in my head while I was walking down to the baker's to buy a nice roll and cake today. I just saw a headline, and I think it was an Oxford group have made the next step with fusion.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
so I saw kind of like, they've gone further. They're starting to produce more energy out of fusion than they're putting in, or whatever.
yes,
It's
yes,
that kind of getting to the point where fusion may actually be possible.
yeah,
And energy, basically will drop by in price by a factor of 10 or 100 or something at some point. It's not going to be for like 10, 20, 30 years or something, no doubt.
Yeah.
But energy suddenly becomes really, really low cost compared to what it is now. And it's like, and it's green energy. So everybody's like, oh yeah, Planet Save, green energy, fantastic, and it's like, what are the implications of energy going down in price that much? I mean, there's a simple things like cryptocurrencies suddenly blow out of the water as being worthless. Cryptocurrencies crash because, obviously crypto is based on energy costing something. And as soon as you can mine for $0, then crypto goes down the pan,
right. Yeah.
As it does if quantum computing works out, because the algorithms can just invent coins like that. So crypto as it currently stands, and no doubt someone will solve that one maybe, but that goes down. But what about everything else? If energy becomes so cheap, then the whole when the whole world has been based on the price of oil, and when oil's cheap, the economies go up, and when oil's expensive, economic activity has been suppressed. Well, imagine energy goes down by a factor of 100. Economic activity is like going to suddenly hit the roof, suddenly doing things which are expensive on energy. Who cares? Let's put saunas in the Antarctic because it's cheap to do it. Let's pump water around to the deserts because, well, other than the cost of a pipeline, the cost of the energy to transport the water there is nil, or whatever. And in fact, if economic goes up there, then we'll be limited by the cost of raw materials. We'll be, it doesn't cost to dig stuff out of the ground and smelt steel and stuff anymore. We just need the raw materials to make steel, but the energy cost is zero. So we'll probably get a whole new set of environmental challenges, because we'll start doing a lot of stuff that energy costs constrain us and stop us doing, that we will start doing, and will potentially hurt the planet in other ways. But also kind of it will change the whole world so incredibly in how we function and what's important and how our decisions are made. It's just mind-boggling to me.
Because what we thought was an immovable constraint, turns out it wasn't. I mean, rough analogy, but aren't we at the baby step stage of having done that with communication? Communication was done at human and wind speed up until 150 years ago. Like that was about as fast as you could get, Napoleon semaphores aside. And now, and seriously, in the 20-year span that you and I have been talking about, emailing someone around the planet, talking live to someone in England from the Pacific Northwest is like, we didn't talk about the cost of this video conference, did we?
No.
Communication.
No, you're paying, right?
Communication has become somewhat like you're saying about energy. Communication has done this darn near free vector, and we're still trying to figure out how to, how to reinvent and operate with constraints gone on that particular thing.
Yeah, and now if you make the whole world, the whole world is limited by the cost of energy, and if you suddenly remove that, what are we going to be limited by?
Right. What are we going to be limited by?
And suddenly doing things which are energy intensive and doing things in an inefficient way won't matter anymore.
Yeah, that's true. And then we'll have the can we harness that energy to fix the stuff that we managed to break quite badly, right? If carbon extraction is daunting because it's energy expensive,
well, suddenly it's not.
Right. Yeah. No, it's fast. I read that, and China's had some breakthroughs with fusion, I think, as well. My hope, and this is we're off down a rabbit hole, which is awesome. Maybe fusion will not have the brand problem that nuclear has, because on a rational basis, being an environmentalist and being anti-nuke is not a very sensible position. honestly.
Yeah, well, I guess obviously fusion's seen as radioactively safe
It's
with
a
fission.
brand issue, like,
Yeah.
to put it
Okay.
in
Right.
marketing
Yeah.
terms.
So the difference between fission and fusion, which
Yeah.
for anyone who doesn't know, splitting the atom versus smashing two atoms together
Yes.
and combining them, and they both produce energy. Just one has bad side effects.
Yes. 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 Yes.
But
And the other doesn't. It's just, can we contain it to actually make it happen continuously? Tough science problem, right? We've been working at this for
yeah,
close to a century, and we're only now starting to see some, more
yeah.
output than input kind of results. Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
good.
I'm kind of, as I say, I was, walking down to the local bakers, and it's kind of thinking, there you go. And I've now got the pieces knocking around in my head. Possibly when I go to the bathroom next, I'll suddenly think about
Yeah,
a few more implications of what zero energy could mean to society. But it's absolutely fascinating. I
it really
think
is. Yeah,
the impact of cheap energy would
yeah,
have.
and
It changes
everything,
everything. It
everything.
just
Yeah,
would be so fundamental. I don't think we can even start to understand how fundamental it would be,
agreed.
how it changes
Yeah,
everything that
yeah.
we do.
No, you're absolutely right. And yay science, right? Like, if that happens, call me Pollyanna. I think that's a great thing. We'll take a century to figure out how to start adapting or more, but I'd much rather see that happen than not.
Yeah,
I would be optimistic about what we could do with that. Let me put it that way.
yeah. And if we're talking about, the farming revolution, the industrial revolution, the computing technology revolution, we'll probably be talking about the zero energy revolution as being, the next big thing
Yeah, yeah.
in terms of the thing which suddenly changes,
Everything.
everything.
Yeah, everything.
In that,
There's this super super smart gent, Mark Anderson, who runs Strategic News Service, an email newsletter of all things. And Mark is a just brilliant polymath. I happen to know him because he happens to live not far from here. Um, he proposed what he called the carbon. He called it the carbon trifecta. He said we need to pull carbon out of the atmosphere and turn it into graphene, so that we
Mhm.
can make things with graphene. And it's a virtuous cycle, because that particular material, graphene, invented in your country, um, has such astonishing useful
Right.
properties that an infinite supply of that would only be good, and it'd be
Right.
but much better to have the carbon,
It's
not in the
good question.
sky.
It's used a lot in kind of nanotechnology, I'm thinking.
Well, that among other things, graphene, single layer of matrix of carbon atoms, is a superconductor,
Right.
is a super insulator, is stronger than Kevlar. Like there's this ridiculous list of things. It's just right now it's still too hard to manufacture,
Right.
probably because of energy costs.
Right. So now if energy comes down really,
Yeah,
really cheap,
yeah,
suddenly graphene becomes really, really viable for,
yeah.
for your
Everything.
Fidget toys or whatever it is.
Yeah, 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 for everything. Yeah, we'll see. If I could have a, like, one molecule thick superconductor parka, so that I didn't have to carry such heavy stuff backpacking, like, that alone seems like a win to me.
Yeah. 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 Wow.
Well,
There
look
you
at
go.
that, Tim. I've tied up an entire hour of your afternoon, and we've gone down many rabbit holes, and we didn't talk about email that much, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah, seriously is. So if someone's listening to this and they're like, "Ooh, EOS, that sounds really interesting," um, beyond reading a book, which is hard to, you can't transform a business by reading a book. Like, what steps do you suggest an entrepreneur take if they're
Sure.
interested?
Well, I mean, you say you can't transform business by reading a book. I mean, there are quite a few people out there who've read Traction, taken the practical tools from it, and
Yeah,
started implementing it into the business. And
yeah,
there are people who look at it and go, you know what, we want to spend all our time and energy not learning how to implement these tools, but to keep running our business, and we'll get someone in who can
yeah,
show us how to do it. So,
yeah,
but there are just straight up, there are people who do it. They'll go and buy a copy of Traction and see what it is. So, I'd say email me, tim.watson@eosworldwide.com. I'm happy to tell you more about Traction. Buy a copy of the book Traction by Gino Wickman. Both
And the
great things to do.
website is Traction
So
Six.
no, the website. It's actually changed.
Aha! What is it?
Yeah. So the way to get hold of me now is the EOS community's got in the last months has been more closely knitted together, which is great. Which means I now get an EOS Worldwide moniker.
Okay.
Previously it was all a little bit disparate,
Okay.
but it's now been kind of knitted together because there's like 430 implementers around the world, of
Oh,
which
really?
I'm effectively
Interesting.
one. Yeah,
Okay.
with which I'm one. So we work really closely together as a community. We support each other and talk on a very regular basis.
Very cool.
Yeah, get a copy of Traction, read that.
I'm going to.
Look
I've
at
got it. I've
EOS
got it right here on my
Worldwide.
screen. Like I've got to read this.
Yeah, and well, tell me what you think of it when you do. Or get in contact with me. Say tim.watson@eosworldwide.com will reach me. Be happy to give you any help I can. If you just read the
Terrific.
book and go, how does that work? Tell me about how it really works. I get
Yeah.
it from a theoretical, but
Yeah.
what's your
Yeah.
practical experience?
What's the practical experience? We'll wrap recording there. Thank you so much. My guest has been Tim Watson. Tim, have a fantastic afternoon.
Thank you. Bye.